Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Coding with T. Today we're going to learn how to fetch all the brands and how we can display the brands, and also we're going to learn how we can create brands inside our Firebase database. So first quickly have a look what we are going to achieve. Okay, so our application is running and you can see because user was logged in, so we redirected to the home screen, and in the home screen we already received the user details, then we received all the categories, and then we have the list of banners over here. And in that we also learned that when we are going to click on any of the banner, we will be redirected to some other screen. Then we learn how to fetch all these products. When you click on this product, you will be able to handle all these variations. When you click on any of the variation, selected variation will be appeared. Load list of images. When you click on any of the image, you will see the image in the large mode and a bunch of other things. Okay, when you click on this view all, which is the previous tutorial in which you will learn how to display any type of list of data which we are going to use in the future builder to display all this data, and also you can sort any type of data based on these variables. So in today's tutorial, when you head towards the store, you can see we have four brands over here. So we are going to make sure that these brands loaded from the internet. Once we have these brands, we can click on view all button to display all the brands. And when any of the brand is selected, we will try to get the products of the specific brand and use the previous tutorial screen to display all these products. So let's get started. We are creating Flutter e-commerce application, and if you are following the tutorials, you know that we have already completed all the previous four sections and we are on the last section of this playlist. In the first section, we learn how to set up and manage products, create a new product and handle everything. Then we in the second section, we learn how to design all the screens related to the login, sign up, splash screen, onboarding and other things. After that, we learn how to create a complete design of e-commerce application, and then at the fourth, we started the backend. We completed all the authentication tutorials, and whereas in the last section we are about to complete the backend of e-commerce application. So let's get started with today's tutorial. First of all, open your Firebase project, and inside you can see we have already created the brands collection. The name of the collection is brands, and inside, if you open any of the document, you can say the document IDs are unique and these all are in the string. If you open any of the document, you will see we have 4 to 5 elements. The first one is the ID. It's not required because we have the ID over here. Then we have the image is featured, name and products count. If we talk about these four things, this is a number which is the integer products count. Then we have a name which is name of the brand. Then is if that brand is featured or not, and then we have the image. So previously I'm getting a lot of questions that how we are going to add a URL manually without doing anything specific. So if you go to the storage and where you have uploaded all of your brands, I have uploaded all the brands over here in the brands folder inside storage. So when you click on any of the brand and you want to use that location or store that location manually inside your Firestore, do not copy the storage location. Instead, you can copy the access token, not like this, but if you hover over this, you can see we have a message which is click to copy download URL with token. So this is what we need. If you click on this, head back over here and let me edit this. Or instead, if I open the notes and I'm going to paste the current selected URL, so this is what you will be able to get in order to access the image. You just have to paste it over here inside this image. It should be a string. You just have to select all, paste it over here, and that's it. You're done. So this way you will be able to all the images in brands, in banners, categories, products, etc. Okay, we are inside our project, and for today's tutorial, we have to head towards the feature shop, and in the screens, we have already created a store screen, and inside this store you can see we have a search bar, we have a silver app bar. We already completed all these designs in the previous tutorial. So if you're new, you can watch the playlist. Link is in the description or from the right top corner. In here, we have a heading which is saying that featured brands. And when you're going to click on view all button, we will be redirected to all brands screen. And then we have a grid which is displaying currently static brands. Item count is 4. So over here, we want to display our brands. We want to load the brands whenever the store screen appears or opens for the first time. And for that, we have to call the init method whenever this build method will be created. We have to make sure that whenever this build method created, we want to fetch all the brands, not again and again, but only the first time when user opens our application and redirect to the store screen. So to do that, we head towards the controller, and inside I've created an empty controller named brand controller, class brand controller, and extends with a get getX controller to use getX features. So as we want to load all the brands only once, so that's why we have to receive those brands into two lists. The first one will be having four brands only to display on the store, and the second one is going to store all the brands that we are going to fetch and will display those brands on the view all brand screen. We are going to create a list, but not a simple list, but a list of type RX. You will know why we are going to create this type of list will be the brand model. We're going to talk about the brand model, how we can design that. I'm going to name it featured brands, and it will be an empty list of type brand model, just an empty list, and that's it. But because it is a RX list, so we have to add .obs at the end. So this OBS is going to convert this simple list into a type of RX list. So the reason to use this type of list is because we are using getX model and we want to redraw our design whenever there is change inside this featured brands. At first, when our application loads or the store screen opens, this is going to be an empty featured brands, but whenever it is going to be filled, we want to redraw the design on the screen with the list of loaded brands, right? So to do that, we need two lists. The first one is the featured brands and the second one is going to be all brands, because we are only going to call Firebase once, not again and again. So that's why we're going to get all the brands and we are going to extract the four featured brands also from that list, and we will be able to use this list throughout in our application where we want. And also we need a loader. Loader is also a type of boolean, but also you can see it's OBS. So when our brands are empty, we want to display the loader, and if they are not empty, we want to make this false and we will display all the brands. Now in order to load the brands, we want to only trigger a function on the onInit method of this brand controller, call the super onInit, and create a new function get featured brand. For here it will be a return type of future, and we are not going to return anything. Name it get featured brands, and they are also not going to receive anything because it's a type of future. So we have to make this async, because we are going to call the cloud query over here. So first of all, when we are going to talk about the cloud query, we have to make sure that every error or every exception should be caught and our design should not crash in any case. So must use try catch, and whatever we are going to receive, we will display it into a loader, which is in the tloaders class error snack bar, that is going to use the get.snack bar, display a title, message is dismissible, and bunch of other designs. Because it is static and name of the class is tloaders, that's why we can directly use tloaders.error snack bar and pass title and message. Now inside this try, first of all, we are going to start the loader, which is just to change the value of this is loading value to true, and in the finally we are going to stop the loader just to change the is loading value to false. Now in order to call cloud query, because we handle all the cloud queries in the repository, so that's why let's create a repository variable, not actually a variable but an instance. This get.put is going to create a new instance. If you're not using the getX, you can simply call this class like this. It is going to create a new instance. In the previous times we usually used to use this new keyword, but it is not mandatory in the Dart. But because we are using the getX, we are going to create instance like this. So this brand repository instance will be created, and we are going to use that instance to fetch all the brands is equal to, we are going to call the await sign and use the brand repository dot get all brands. This is a new function that we have to create. This function is going to return all the brands to us, and once we have all the brands, we are going to assign all these brands to all brands at the top. So assign those all brands, we have to call all brands dot assign all, and in that we are going to pass brands. This is going to assign these all brands to this variable which is containing list of brands. And next, to extract all the featured brand, we are going to use the same way featured brands dot assign all, but we're not going to provide all the actual brands, but instead let's use all brands dot where. Inside this where we will have a brand, and which brand we want, we only want the brands which are featured. If featured is null by somehow, we are going to make it false. This is not a featured brand, and we are going to take four brands from this list, and by this way we able to get all these brands and assign those brands to the feature brands. Now so far we are good with the controller. Now let's head to the brand repository and create all brands. open the brand repository, which is inside the data repositories. I've created a new folder which is brands, and inside we have a brand repository.dart. So the responsibility of this class is to deal with the Firebase. So I've created a new variable, Firebase Firestore.instance. This is going to point towards the database of our e-commerce app. Now in here, to get all the categories, because it is going to return us list of all brands, so we are going to receive list of type brand model. Name will be get all brands, and we are not again going to receive anything. Instead, we have to return a list. First inside again a cloud query, so we are going to handle try and catch. So this catch is going to accept any generic error, but because we have to display relevant messages to the user, so that's why, because we have already created in the previous tutorials, we have already learned in the section 4 that how to deal with all these exceptions. So that's why I am going to use these exceptions. If you're new, you can watch the previous tutorials, import these exceptions over here. So this is the Firebase exception because we are using the Firebase. Then we have a format exception and a platform exception. And then at the end, we are going to display a generic error because we don't want the user to see any technical details. Now inside this try, first of all, call our database for the results. So we are going to receive a snapshot of a data, and it is a cloud query, so make sure to use await sign, and also we have to make this function async. Now we can call Firebase Firestore.instance, which we already declared at the top, which is database dot collection. Name of the collection should be exactly same. We have a collection of brands because we want all the brands, so we are not going to use any where statement over here to get all the brands. This get is going to return us all the brands, and then use a result to extract everything from the model. So we're going to call this snapshot dot, because we have a list of documents whenever we call a collection, so that's why we're going to use all the documents and use the map property to convert a JSON which we receive and map it into the model that we are going to talk about. The model is brand model, and we're going to use brand model dot com snapshot. This function is going to receive a JSON, and definitely we are going to convert it into two lists. This function is going to receive a JSON and return brand model, and then at the end, whenever this map will be completed, we will have a list of brands. Then we will be able to convert it into a to list, and at the end we just have to return this result. This result is basically a list of brand models. If we talk about this brand, this is a series of 5 different variables. You can see is featured is the boolean type of nullable. It can be featured, it cannot be featured. Again, we have a products count, it's optional, it's not required. This is a simple constructor of this class. Then we have helper method, an empty helper method, which is again returning brand model with empty data. Then over here you can see we have two JSON function. This will only be used when you want to convert the data of this model and want to upload that data into Firestore, because Firestore receives a JSON. So we have to convert all this data and return JSON back to the Firebase. And this is, you can convert from JSON. You have to provide a typical JSON over here. That JSON will be extracted and placed on this brand model, and you can see that brand model will be returned. Then we have another function, which is a factory function. Factory function always return the main class, the same class which we have over here, which is a brand model. And then dot is going to be defined a new constructor, which is from snapshot. It is going to receive, you can see it is going to receive a JSON, but JSON is a type of document snapshot. So we first have to extract JSON from it, and then we can use it. So then we have a document dot data. This data is actual JSON. If it is not is equal to null, we are going to extract that JSON from here and paste it over here. Then we have to just map all the data. As you can see, if data of name is null, if by this two question mark means if it is null, we're going to return an empty string. So if you face any error like null cannot be assigned to a type of string variable, this means that you are receiving null somewhere and you're not converting that to the string which is required from these variables. And in the else case, if this document is empty, we are simply returning the brand model dot empty over here. Okay, that's it. We are done with the repository, done with the brand controller. If we head towards the store, now we just have to trigger the on init method which we have inside our brand controller. So the first time whenever the store opens, we want to trigger this on init method of this brand controller class. So let's open the store screen, and inside, to trigger on init method, we have to create a new instance. Let's name it brand controller. And to create a new instance, we know we have to call get.put, and inside call the brand controller, and that's it. Now what getx is going to do, getx going to go through all the instances we created previously, and it is going to find that if we have already created instance of this brand controller, if yes, it is going to return that instance over here. If it is not going to find any of the previous this created brand controller instance, it is going to create a new instance. So that new instance will be able to trigger this on init method, means on initialization method. And in that method, we will be able to trigger the get features brand. And when we trigger that, we have is loading to true. We are going to call this repository, get all the brands and map all the brands on these two different lists. So this way that we are going to use brand controller and we're displaying all the brands in a grid layout. So in order to detect the change and display the change, we have to click Alt Enter, wrap it with a widget dot obx, because obx is a function. So we have to create a function and put this grid inside that function because we have to return something from this function. So let's call return a widget. That's it. So this is how we return something. We cannot use obx over a widget which don't have anything like .obs, because obx duty is to observe those variables who have a type of rx. So we have two lists that needs to be observed. So whenever there is change in that obs variables, this obx is going to redraw whatever is inside this function over here. So first of all, let's create a loader inside the if all the brand controller dot is loading variable dot value. This value is going to return the actual value. If it is true, this means that currently a function is loading something. So we have to return loader. You can return a circular progress indicator, but I have already created the brands shimmer, which is using a grid layout. Then we have item count. Currently by default it has 4 item counts. You can increase or decrease it. Then in the item builder we have the default shimmer effect, which is having width as 300, height as 80, and this is the shimmer effect, and this is the actual package that we are using. Add a constant. So if, because we have to return widget from here, so only when the is loading value is true, it is going to automatically return this loader. Then we're going to check if, again go to brand controller dot featured brands, which is a list of brands. You can see it again has obs. So we're going to check that if featured brands dot is empty. If this is the case, return a center widget and a text with no data found. And if none of these cases, then it is going to return this t grid layout with our own data. So to call this data, brand controller dot, because we are going to display featured brands over here, only 4 featured brands. So we are not going to use the all brands variable, but instead use the featured brands list. And then inside this item builder using index, we are going to retrieve a single brand, remove this comment. So this brand controller is going to call the featured brands, and using index, we will be able to extract a single brand. Then open the brand card, because previously we are displaying the dummy data inside this brand. And this time we are going to call this brand model, because we have to pass the brand over here, and in the constructor we're going to make this brand as required. Instead of calling static image, let's change it with the brand dot image. Then as a brand title, remove the static with a brand dot name, remove this constant. And then as a number of products, again we can use brand dot products count, and somehow if they are null, we are going to display 0, because 0 is not a string. So let's wrap it with a string and add products. So this is going to display a number of products over here. Once done, let's head to brand card, and you can see it requires now a brand, and as a brand we can pass the brand over here. And let's remove this constant. Now if you open this, you can see in the all brands we also have to pass the brand attribute, and same is going to be for the brand product details, where we have to pass the brand. So currently I'm passing brand model dot empty. So first of all, let's run the application to see all the new changes. Okay, our application is running. Let's go to store, and you can see we have all the data loaded. But to display the image of the brand, we have to go to the brand card, and inside this network image we have to make it true. Let's save it, and you can see it's loading because we have a cache image. So it's loaded and all the image being displayed. Now when we're going to click on this view all, instead of loading some dummy data, we want to display the actual data. So over this heading, we are going to click on view all. We will be able to display the screen. Now inside the screen, because we want to reuse the data that we already fetched, so instead of creating a new variable of that controller, we're going to call this brand controller dot instance. So this instance is simply going to find the already created brand controller instance for us, and we will be able to use all brands over here. We're going to do the same for this grid to display all the brands. So let's go to the store. let's copy this obx and replace this grid over here, and let's name the controller as brand controller and import this brand shimmer. Okay, so we are done. We just have to change this featured brands variable to all brands, and also want to display all brands over here, extract data from the all brands. So that's it. Now let's save it. Let's click on view all, and you can see all the data has been loaded with all the images. Now the last thing is, when we are going to click on this brand, it should be able to load all the products related to this brand. So for that, if you open your Firebase console, and you can see we have all the brands over here, but we don't get discussed that how we are going to link all the products with the brands, right? If you open the products, you can see each product contains a brand specific data. So we have a brand over here, we have a brand ID, image is featured, name, and all the details over here. Just to avoid reads, we copy pasted the brand inside the product. Now when user is going to select some of the brands, we want to extract that ID, and we want to loop through all these products to find out that which product contains the same ID as ID selected. To do that, if you hover over this brand card, it has a function of on tap. If you see this, everything has been wrapped on top of this gesture detector, and inside we have a on tap feature. So now to use that on tap feature, we just have to create on tap, and when it is going to be tapped, we are going to call the function, and inside we have get.to feature to call the brand product screen, which we have already created in the previous tutorials. And inside you can see currently we have a dummy name of the brand, and then over here we have a sortable product list that requires list of products. So before calling this, we need to use FutureBuilder to get all the products based on the selected brand. So first of all, let's call the final brand model, because we have to get that brand over here, and using that brand we can easily call brand dot name to display the selected brand name. Remove this constant. Now head back over here where we are displaying the brand products. We have to call the brand and pass the current selected brand which has been displaying, and remove this constant. This is going to call this product details screen whenever any of the brand will be clicked. That brand with all the details will be passed over here into this new screen, and using this in the app bar we are able to display the selected brand, and inside this brand card we are going to again pass the brand. Remove this empty brand and pass the actual brand that we just called. Now to display all the products, first of all let's head towards the brand controller, and inside we have to use this function. This function is going to return a list of products, and it is going to receive a brand ID. Based on that brand ID we will be able to get all the products. Okay, I've created a new function which is going to return list of product models, means list of products, and it is going to receive the brand ID. Based on this brand ID, it is going to return the list of products. And from where we are going to call this, we are going to call this exactly from the product repository, because it's specific duty of the product repository to deal with all the products. And also make sure to add try and catch for these cloud queries, and inside the catch definitely we are going to return an empty list. Now inside this product repository we have to create this function get products for brands. Open the product repository, and in the previous tutorials we already learned that how we can get only specific featured products which has a for length and all the featured products, and also query anything or just pass the query, whatever the query it is just going to get the data and convert data into product list, and that's why we are using this to display all the products. Now over here, okay, I've created a new function which is going to return list of products. It is definitely a future type function. Name of the function is get product for brand, and it has two values that it needs to be passed. The first one is required because we are using curly brackets, and inside that curly brackets we can make something required, optional, and default. So I've done the same. The first one is required, which is brand ID, and the second one is optional, which is the limit. By default it is -1, so we are going to add a check. If it is -1, we are going to return all the products for that brand, and if limit is specified, only we are going to fetch that specific brands. So we're going to query this, receive query of type documents, and if the limit is equal to -1, in this case, if this condition is true, we want to get all the brands. And to get all the brands, we have call Firebase Firestore.instance, which is the database.collection. Make sure the collection name is same, otherwise it's not going to return anything. Collection of products dot where. Now in here, because if you open this, you can see we don't have a brand ID right as a first attribute, but we have a brand ID inside this map. So we have a brand dot id. So to call that inside the where clause, we have to call write the same name, exact same variable name, which is brand, then use dot id. So this id again should be exactly same, then use is equal to parameter, and we're going to make it equal to the brand id we received at the top, and then at the end just call the get sign without adding any limit. This means that, sorry, it's not going to be semicolon here because it's a if condition. So if limit is equal to -1, we are going to extract all the products over here, and then in the else just copy everything, paste it one more time. Just before this get, we are going to add a limit and pass the limit provided. That's it. Control Alt L to align, and by this way we are going to able to get all the data inside this query snapshot. Now we again use the product model to do the same procedure, get all the documents, use the map property, map all the documents into to list, and simply return the products from here. That's it. Now in here inside this function, you can see because we have named parameters, so we are going to call this brand ID, and by this way we are going to pass the brand ID over here. In this case, we want all the products, so that's why we're not going to make it specific. You can also pass limit over here by asking the user to provide any limit, so it's all up to you. Now inside the brand products, where we have to provide all the sortable products, we have to wrap this with a future builder. So stream builder is same like the future builder. So let's use the syntax, remove this stream builder with the future builder, and also instead of the stream, we have to call the future method. Builder will remain same, user context, and snapshot is going to receive the data. As a future, we first have to call the controller, brand controller dot instance. It is going to return the already created brand controller. Copy this controller, and inside we're going to call get brand products. So we have to provide the brand ID over here, which is inside this brand dot ID. So based on this ID, we are going to pass this over here. It is going to call the product repository, and using this query, we will be able to get all the products. Now, in short, we are going to receive a list of product models over here as inside the snapshot. If you already following the playlist, you know that to handle all the loading states, all error states, we have created a helper function for the future builder or for the stream builder, in which we can provide our own custom widgets, own custom loaders. And let's open this cloud function. The name of the function is check multi-record state. It has to return a widget, and inside these functions, the only parameter that is required is the async snapshot, which is list of type T. T means that any type of model can be provided as a list. Then we have an optional loader parameter, optional widget, which is error widget. Optional widget is a nothing found widget, and we are just going to call if snapshot, the provided snapshot dot connection state is waiting. Then we are going to return a center widget as a circle progress indicator. But if you provided your own loader over here and it is not null, we are going to return that loader. Then if the snapshot.has data is false, snapshot.data is null, or the snapshot.data is empty, we are going to again check if nothing found widget is provided, we are going to return it. Else a center with a text no data found, same with the has error, and if nothing of these went wrong, we are going to simply return null. And over here where we are calling this, we are going to check that if returned widget is not null, then simply return from here. Instead of returning actual widget, return whatever widget received, and we are only passing the loader widget, which is the custom product shimmer widget. If you see this, it is a simple grid with all the column. First is the image, then we have two text. Okay, now it's time to get the actual data over here. When the record found using snapshot.data, this means that if we are not returning any error widget, this means that we have the data, so we will receive it inside this brand products. So let's copy this, and we have to provide the list of products to the sortable products. So when you open this is going to do the same as we created in the previous tutorial. Receive the products list, create a drop down with the name, higher price, lower price, and all the other sorts, and then in the obx it is going to display the grid layout. So now let's save it, rerun the application. Okay, so our application is running. Let's click on store. So you can see we have 4 products. When we are going to click on any of the products, it's not opening because we forget to add on click on that. Inside the all brands, we added the on tap feature, but inside the store, Let's open the store, and inside this cart we forget to add one. So inside this again call the on tap, and using get.to feature we are going to call this new screen, which is the brand products, and pass the current active brand. Let's save it. Let's click on the first one, and you can see the products are loading. You can see the name at the top, then the same banner of that, and again we're loading all the products related to that specific brand, and you can see all the brands are loaded. Now try to sort those brands. The first one is with the higher price, then go for the lower price, and we have some issue over here which is null percentage. So it's good to have some problems. Let's find out why we are facing this. Okay, if you open the product card vertical, because we are receiving null over here as a percentage because we forget to add the if statement, you just have to write if sale percentage not is equal to null. Only in that case we want to display this widget. So when we're going to save this, it should go on. And now you can see we don't have any sale over here, and we also don't have any percentage sign. So let me go for the sale. And with this way you can see first all the sale attributes, then we don't have any sale on the rest of the attributes. So that's it for today's tutorial. I hope you learned something new. If you learned something new, please like the video, and if you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified for all the upcoming videos. Once again, you can download all the complete code, link is in the description, or you can watch the complete playlist, link is in the description or from the right top corner. Once again, thank you for watching. Take care. Allah Hafiz.